So then now your music history, which is the next set of 20, is based on the periods of music, which should be inclusive of styles and forms. So we have Baroque, classical, romantic, 20th century music, and we have Caribbean music and present day styles. So all of those popular music. So we can know about those in terms of when they are. So you may be familiar with this chart or this thing. So you'd have medieval music within the 1100s. Then you'd have the Renaissance period around the 1400s. But then we really start, the CXC is going to be questioning from Baroque to now. So Baroque period will be in the 1600s, then we have 1700s for the classical, and then we have romantic and early romantic, and then we have the 20th century. So what you could perhaps do, and I do have some information on some. So Baroque period, you have from 1600 to 1750. These are some notable composers within the Baroque period. So we have Bach, Handel, Scarlatti, and Purcell. So when you talk about Baroque music, those are some names that will pop up, which will be popular around that time. And it's considered a late phase of the Renaissance, marked by a more intricate and even outlandish visual style. In some ways, the word applies to the music as well. So the compositions are more homophonic, meaning that they are based on one melody with harmonic support coming from a keyboard player. So you hear about instruments such as the harpsichord. Has anybody heard about that instrument before? Or any of those early clavichord? We use a lot of clavisounds in reggae music now on the synthesizer. And the tonality was more into either major or minor, compared to previous periods where they use modes like Gregorian chants and within that time. All right. I'll share this presentation as well, so you have this information. So don't worry about getting too much information. All right. And these are some key features of the style. So we have abundance of ornamentations, a lot of trills, a lot of turns. The tonality is established. So you have clear triads, clear seventh chords. We have continuo by the harpsichord, so that is usually played by that instrument. Present almost always accompanying string instruments, and we have an abundance of polyphony, and we have often dense musical textures, so very thick, right? Admit-tonian. Okay. All right, so that's our Baroque period. The next period that we do have, and okay, I think I have something I can share. So this is an example of Baroque music. Can share a little of it. This is a piece by Henri Purcell. And so on and so forth. So that's that. And next now we have the classical period, which was within the 1700s and the early part of the 1800s, right? So this listening exercise that we had earlier was from the classical as outlined. So we have Mozart, Beethoven, Paganini, Rossini. Also some of the big names that are within this particular period. That's when musicians return to more ordered forms and strict compositional rules and regulations, right? So highlights, simplification of ornamentation, or we have simple turns. The tonality was simplified. We have lesser dense textures, often symmetrical phrasing, which is clearly stated, and incomplete and complete cadences. And we know what a cadence is, right?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
What is the cadence? You know, somebody got asked that from. What's a cadence?
Sir, the specific ending of a music or how the music has ended.
Ah, very nice. End of a musical phrase. Or yeah. So very right. And we have non-English text, if especially for vocal music. So we talk about oratorios, um, uh, operas. Those are usually in languages other than English. So those are some of the key features of the particular style. And again, a heavy emphasis on harpsichord, which was the instrument of the day. Next, we do have the Romantic period, right? So it was more expressive, more dramatic, orchestral, composed, and well played with a level of drama and emotionality. So we talk about Shakespeare stuff, not seen in previous eras. So we have Wagner, which is one of them, or Tchaikovsky, right? So those are some of the composers there. And for the Romantic period, we have lush, full string instrument, um, the string section, thicker harmonic texture, expanded harmonic library, expressive use of voice. So a lot of what we know as music theater, we known as opera then, everything was sung, right? So expressive use of the voice accompanied by piano or orchestra. I apologize for my security system. Um, and then we have establishment of instrumental music as primary mode of music within that particular period. And we have, I think this is somewhat from that period. So that's the name of the conductor. I think this is the rise of the Valkyries. I think. And by the way, we know that this is an orchestra based on the instruments there. Oh, splendid. So the lushness of it happening. Alright, so I'll share that one for you as well, so you can listen on your own. So that's from the Romantic period. And next up, we have our 20th century music. So that was from the 1900s to where we are now. And what happened within this particular period? Um, no one trend or style in particular dominates. Composers range from the relatively traditional. So these names, Shostakovich and Schumann, and then we have Stockhausen. So these are some of the names. We talk about George Gershwin and Andrew Lloyd Webber. Anybody, well, y'all should know about these names, guys. Everybody know about George Gershwin, Andrew Lloyd Webber, Phantom of the Opera. So we have Roto.
Sir, I don't.
Come again?
No, sir, I don't.
You don't? Well, you have some work to do, man. You have to catch up. So Rotta and Benjamin Britten, those are some other composers within this period. So you can take a glance, revise some of the main characters. You can talk about what has been happening within this time, the style of music, how it is played, how is it listened to, what are some of the key features, and that will help you. So those are music timelines. We could talk about forms as well, some forms of music. So we have Gregorian chant. This was from the early stages of music. So the chant is usually a church music that is sung in a single vocal line in free rhythm and in a restricted scale. The easiest way to identify that would be like persons who are within a Catholic space, church. You notice that they sing text, liturgical text. So, the Lord bless you and keep you, something like those. So they will have that sing song. So that was kind of indicative of the chants. Then we have a motet, which is a short piece of sacred choral music. Jubilate Deo, that's a good one to use. We have a chorale, which is a stately hymn tune, especially one associated with the German Lutheran Church. We have a sonata, which is a composition for an instrumental soloist, often with a piano accompaniment included. So it could be piano sonata and you have violins being present, or another melodic instrument. And usually a sonata has several movements. We have what we call a concerto, which is a musical composition for a solo instrument or instruments accompanied by an orchestra, especially one conceived on a relatively large scale. We have what we call rondo, which is a musical form with a recurring leading theme. We have an oratorio, which is a narrative musical work for voices and orchestra. So I don't know if you know about the Messiah by Handel. That work that the great Hallelujah chorus comes from. That's called an oratorio, because it has several other things. And people call them like cantatas. Hear about cantatas, which is a full work. Often has some drama as well attached to it. We have an opera, which is a dramatic work in more than one act. Also, tone poems, which is a musical word that evokes the content of a poem. And I put Garnet Silk there, which is way before some of your time. Anybody knows about Garnet Silk? Lord, crickets in the room. Teachers don't know about Garnet Silk.
Yes, sir.
The teacher
yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going about to call out names. So he did a particular piece called Splashing Dashing Restless Sea, which is really from a poem. And it really made it his own. So you can type that up in YouTube, Splashing Dashing Restless Sea by Garnet Silk, and you can hear it. So that's a tone poem. So that means that you're really putting what is known to be spoken word, giving it definite pitch, right? To putting it in a song. And we have something that we call serial music, which is a method of composition using a series of pitches, rhythms, dynamics, timbres, and other musical elements. And this is one example, Schoenberg's 12-tone technique. So that covers that. Yeah, and that's all of that. Okay, everybody good so far? Questions, concerns? Everybody okay?
Good so far, sir.
All right, great.